I'd actually say a lot of it is the green spaces that we have. So I personally live in Merton, and I'm really proud of Wimbledon Common, also the green spaces around in where I'm a councillor, which is over in Lower Morden, where we've got King George's. We've also got Morden Hall Park. And also when you go across into Wandsworth, and we've got great Wandsworth Commons and commons on Clapham Junction and Clapham Common as well. So yeah, I think we should be really proud. I mean, that's what South West London is actually known for. Is actually we are a borough that's so close to the city, but doesn't really feel like the city. And when you top that off with the level of transport connections that we have, so living in Wimbledon myself, we've got so many great connections directly into the city, which Stephen Hammond, the MP for Wimbledon, has fought and worked so closely with Parliament for more than 20 years. The District Line, we've got the Northern Line, we've got 2 overground lines, we've got a tram, and then Wandsworth is so well connected as well with the Northern Line. It's actually fairly unique across these 2 boroughs how well we're connected. I was elected as a councillor for the first time, very new into politics. So I only really got into politics over the last 2 or 3 years. And I was elected into Lower Morden. And in that constituency, I'm the only, in fact, it's the whole of Mitcham and Morden, I'm the only Conservative councillor amongst a sea of Labour councillors. And the reason for that was because of my stance on ULEZ, where I have a very different view to the Labour Party and certainly to Sadiq Khan. And that's because I oppose the ULEZ expansion. And the reason for opposing that is if you look into areas on the outskirts of London, so particularly looking at my local ward where I'm a councillor, there is not a single train station in that area. There is very poor bus infrastructure. People rely on their cars to get to work. And outer London does not replicate central London, which is why the ULEZ expansion is not fair and actually penalises people with a lack of transport access, and particularly those that can't afford to replace their cars. There are several matters at play when you look at Altec. So I'm against the application as it stands proposed. Now, I have been a former athlete. I was actually a badminton player, professional badminton player, a top junior badminton player at that as well, a long time ago, albeit now my skills are probably rather rusty. I haven't played for a very long time, but I'm a huge racket sports fan and very proud to have been born in Wimbledon. So it might surprise you that I'm against the application, but I am, because, in urban centres, I believe that our green spaces must be conserved and preserved. And actually the Altec is looking to expand across onto the golf course. And there was, without getting too technical into it, there was a covenant that was attached to the sale of that land that effectively said that that land should only be used for recreational purposes. So that's effectively for the benefits of the residents, so they can do sports or activities or use that space for a purpose that was recreational. The fact that Altec are looking to develop onto that land is where you're actually putting a commercial purpose onto that land, which is not the purpose of the covenant. An area that really impacts everybody is crime. And when I look at some of the stories, just to take you back to September last year, where we had, I think it was called Horror 3 Days in South London, where we had poor Ellie Anand, who was 15, and she was stabbed to death on her way to school. And then later that afternoon, we had a 13-year-old boy who was stabbed just down the road from where I am at the moment in Smallwood Road in Tooting. And then a couple of days later, a 30-year-old man in Croydon who was stabbed. And this is becoming the norm, and this is completely unacceptable. So we got 54% increase in knife crime, 53% increase in sexual offences, and robberies up 49%. And when you overset that with what's happening across the rest of the UK, where actually across the rest of the UK, crime has fallen by 55%, for London, it's going in completely opposite direction. You have to hold Sadiq Khan to account. I mean, Sadiq Khan is the Police and Crime Commissioner for London, and yet under him, crime is rising. He's had the budget from the government to increase the number of police on the beat. So he's been given funding for 4,500 officers, and yet he still hasn't recruited all of those. I think he's 1,000 short of that at the moment. And what we're proposing to do, and what I'm a strong advocate for, is actually setting up divisions in the Met Police that specifically focus on these crimes like thefts and burglaries and robberies. A lot of resources going into violent crime, which is much needed, particularly in some parts of our borough, but particularly in other boroughs entirely. But I've got to be the voice for Merton and Wandsworth and stand up for what impacts us here most. And actually that, even bike theft just out of people's front gardens, it can't just be, oh, well, we're not going to be able to do anything. The police aren't resourced. We've got to resource the police. We've got to make sure that individual requirements of each borough are fully met. And my role would be to talk to the police and talk to the mayor to make sure that those needs are being met and hold them to account on that. Riverside.